Welcome to the Life and Money podcast with Danielle and Franchelle.
I'm Danielle,
And I'm Franchelle.
and this is the podcast where we talk about what's keeping you from having the life and money you want and deserve.
Yes, and today we are continuing our series on relationships. Last week, if you remember, we talked about our relationships with our kids and how our life and our money impact that. And today we are talking about our relationships with our partners.
Partners. Okay, so can we define partners? What does that mean? I had a friend yesterday who was angry with people calling their husbands partners. So, how
Yeah.
are we defining partners?
I started using the term partners a couple years ago. And I know before that, it was kind of like, like a millennial kind of term that people would use, but I found that it's easier than trying to define, is it your husband, is it your wife, is it your girlfriend, are you, because one thing that like irks my nerves is when like a 62-year-old woman says that her boyfriend is blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, why is that your boyfriend? Right. So I love partners because to me it was like an umbrella term. I'm like, okay, we got them all in there. That person's with you, y'all are partnered up, that's your partner.
And so, interestingly enough, I consider myself currently unpartnered versus single.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't refer to myself as single any longer. But if I say like, what else do I call myself? So I say I'm unpartnered.
Mhm.
Um, Although I do desire to be married.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know that I'd call him my partner once I'm married. I'd probably call him my husband, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I use the word unpartnered, but I do think
Mhm.
that when we're talking about romantic relationships, right? That's what we're talking about when we talk about
Mhm.
partnership, romantic
Yeah.
relationships.
Mhm.
I think that partnership is huge. And I do feel at this ripe age that I'm at, I don't
Mhm.
need no boyfriend. I don't even need to say
Right.
those words out of my mouth. So it's weird
Yeah.
to me. You know what I mean? To say
Yeah.
my boyfriend.
I agree. I agree too. I don't like that term, and yeah, I think there's something about, cuz what else, the other thing that appealed to me was the fact that like we are working in tandem, like this is a partnership, and that just felt different than boyfriend or girlfriend kind of thing. It was kind of like that's not where we're headed towards, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But what I was wondering from the life coaching side, um, how does healing your past trauma impact a relationship in your 40s, a romantic relationship in your 40s? Because we'll get past that age where the veil lifts and you go like, oh, right? Like that's how I felt when I was like 41. I was like, oh, wait, this is different. Right. So that trauma and all that, like, how does working on that versus not working on that show up?
Oh my gosh. So from living it in real life, in real time, I can speak to it. I can speak to it, even how I've applied healing towards my life. Um, if you don't deal with your trauma, it will hijack your future.
Mhm.
And if you don't deal with it and understand why you're making certain choices, you'll continue to make those choices again and again and again in louder, more poignant ways. And so I had a marriage that didn't work out. And then I went into a long term relationship that didn't work out. And so I took some time to really get clear about what soundtracks were running my life and what decisions. And after taking that time of like solitude and healing and really going through the confidence, the confidence you have that you won't self betray, you
Mhm.
won't say a yes that you don't mean, and you won't say a no that you don't mean, gives you so much more of a calm energy as you move through. For me, it's allowed me to be far more feminine because I
Mhm.
didn't have to have that masculine edge to protect me because
Mhm.
I actually now trust me. And that has been the most eye opening experience, even
Mhm.
as I've been out like in these um, dating streets, I guess you'll call them.
Mhm.
The confidence and the femininity I've been able to have without feeling like I have to protect myself, and I can just be more calm because I know what my yeses are. I know how to identify a no and not self betray to say, oh, well, maybe I was wrong or maybe this. And I would not have been able to do it. I couldn't do it before, um, because those wounds, those spaces were still open. The last thing I'll say is I refer to it similar to like heroin. So
Mm.
when you get a taste of something that you want so bad that's outside of you that you don't already have inside of you, you get a taste, you're willing to turn tricks to get it again and again and again. And those
Wow. Okay, we went there. All right.
But the turning tricks is self-betrayal, right?
Mhm.
So you're
Mhm.
willing to do anything to
Yeah.
keep having it, even if it's not beneficial, because you think something outside of you is going to fill the hole that you need to fill before you go out. And so filling those open wounds, but taking inventory,
Mhm.
filling them up, you have the confidence and safety to move. And it is the world of difference being in this environment with this calm, healing energy, because I don't put ED on it, but this healing energy allows my yeses to be yeses and my nos to be nos unapologetically. And it's just amazing.
That's so good. For people who may be new to us or new to the way we speak, what is the self-betrayal as you describe?
Mm. So when you know something isn't good for you, and you'll say, oh, but I'll give a really great real time example. We'll leave names, make sure I don't leave any evidence. But okay, so I was talking with someone and I understood why they were upset. I understood everything about it, and I could see the pathway. But he used a tone that was like not a tone that I speak to me or anybody that I love speak to me. It wasn't because he was upset with me specifically, but still, that tone wasn't good. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, I'd love it if you never use that tone again. And he continues like, oh, this is just me. You're going to have to get over it. Well,
Mm,
before, and I know that didn't feel good to me, right? Before I would have
mhm,
been like, okay, well, I know, and maybe I can do this. Maybe I can fix this. Maybe I can be better here so that I knew it didn't feel good in my body, right? Like you can feel that nudge of, oh, that felt really like unsafe to me. Before I would have ignored that feeling,
mhm,
and allowed his feeling or an external person's feeling to be more loud and more take a higher precedent than my own. And
mhm,
so now I wouldn't do that. I didn't do that anymore. Like I can say my no firmly or I can say my yes firmly. But before, even if I felt it in my soul, like this doesn't feel good, something feels ick about this situation, I don't like
mhm,
it, but this person's saying it's okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's right. Believing that someone else is more right about your own self.
mm.
Um,
That's a
these
perfect
are
way to
all
describe it.
forms of self
Yeah.
betrayal.
Yeah, so yourself has an opinion and a stance in the conversation, but instead of having your own back, you go ahead and side with the other person against yourself.
Theirs. Yeah. Ooh,
So
I like
many
that.
people do that, right? Like so many people do that, which is kind of why we're having this conversation today because there is a reason that you do that. If you are
Yeah.
constantly putting other people's opinions ahead of yours, there's a reason that you do that. And it's not just the way you are or like, I'll never change. Like, that is something that if it's causing significant problems in your life, that you can have that erased, removed, not be a part of who you are anymore. And that's the kind of work that Danielle does. And I can tell you, like, I'm a witness to how completely cleanly gone it is when you address it and you fix it. It is gone. Like, you're like, what did I used to do? Right? Or if you are around, a person you used to self-betray with, it's so different. And most of the time those people will leave. If someone's like taking advantage of you and they expect you to put their opinion ahead of your own and you stop doing that, they're out of there.
Yeah. They'll self select right on out because it's no longer beneficial for them.
Yeah, which is so interesting because a lot of people will resist doing the work, resist seeking help because they don't want that circle to change.
Yeah.
And have you noticed that a lot? Like people are afraid of like working on themselves and making their life better. Like they rather stay in pain than for people to leave them or for their circle to change because when they get better, the people who are taking advantage will go, and they're like, but I don't want, and which is scary. And I get that. But man, the benefits are so far outweigh that temporary pain of like losing those relationships.
But the benefits seem so like incomprehensible because you've never been there before, so you almost can't
Hmm.
conceive of it. So
Yeah.
you're like, well, I know what this is and I know how to manage it, and I've learned
Yeah.
how to like jerry rig it and get what I
Mhm.
need, squeeze real hard here, so I'll just keep this.
Yeah.
That's why healing in safe spaces and community is
Mhm.
so important,
Yeah.
because it helps bridge the gap of feeling alone,
Mhm.
and you have a process or someone to help you grieve
Mhm.
the identity shift and the identity upgrade. Because even though identity upgrades seem like this win, it comes
Mhm.
with grief. It can come with
Yeah.
grief
Yeah.
and change, and doing it alone, it's just way harder. So doing it in safe spaces
Yeah.
gives you kind of a buffer.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I don't really think that we will fully do it alone, right? Like
Right.
we won't push ourselves beyond the limit. There's no way. Like our entire nervous system, our body is designed to self-preserve, and we won't push ourselves beyond that limit. There is there's a difference between, just for anybody, if you're in a bad relationship and you happen to be watching this through your earbuds under the covers, right? Like hiding and listening, um there is a difference between being fed up, like you're in a relationship and you're like, enough is enough, this is terrible, I'm emotionally, I'm not doing well, financially I'm not doing well, physically I'm not doing well, I haven't seen my family in 18 years, all this. It's a difference between being fed up and out the door versus being in a situation where you just know there's more for you in life. And it's kind of like something is just not right. And this is not, you know what I mean? Like we're talking
Yeah.
about like the choice to be better, to be the person that you know you could be when the situation is not healthy for you versus like I'm out the door because this is unsafe kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
And life coaching is for the well. You have to be well, and choosing and safe and that kind of thing, and to go into a container that can stir up a lot of things that you have to work through. So you can't, it's you don't need, you can have a coach, but I wouldn't have a coach alone if I was unstable mentally, that kind of thing. So we're talking about, relationships where things are coming up from past trauma that you need to work through. Not saying you have to leave the person, you don't, but to work on yourself will help the relationship. Or if it is abusive, that person will go away. But if it's not, if it's a healthy, loving relationship, working on yourself will only make it even more healthy and loving.
Yeah. When you were talking about the stages of like the status of health, I think of it as if you are bleeding and hemorrhaging, you need to go to the emergency room, you know what I mean? And there you have maybe have some other things you have to take care of versus going to the doctor's appointment.
Right.
So a lot of times, like if you're just feeling a little ache in your body, you can go to the doctor's appointment and start to
Mhm.
get healed and figure things out and get to optimum health. And
Mhm.
if you are in more critical care, you do need a different levels of team. I do recommend therapy, life coach to be used together.
Mhm. I do too.
Um, and I will always I anticipate always having both because
Mhm.
it helps support you to stay well. But
Mhm.
it is important to be able to take inventory as to where you're currently at.
Mhm.
And if you do feel that nag, like I mean, it's not overtly unhealthy in ways, but you feel that nag. Starting with yourself is the biggest gift. Is the
Mhm.
biggest gift you can give to yourself, and
Yeah.
it is such a powerful thing that no one can take from you.
Yeah.
Um, and you would just be absolutely surprised, even though you don't know what the other side of it looks like. I
Mhm.
guarantee you it's
Mhm.
better, even if it comes with some learning curves and some discomfort.
Mhm.
It's it's so much better on the other side. Calm. So when I think of, so I was going to say calm and safe and secure, but even like with dealing with money, because that's what you offer, feeling
Mhm.
calm. It's
Mhm.
safe, it's secure. So so let's see, partners and money.
Yeah. So what I see often I coach spenders, and so when a spender is partnered with another spender, there's a dynamic that's happening where um one or both people is kind of in denial. Usually one of them will come to me because they're like they notice that they can't hit the money goals or that all the money, they're spending all the money. The other person may be in denial and saying like, "No, it's not a problem," right? But somebody notices there's a problem. So that's one dynamic. The other dynamic is when a spender is paired with a saver. And that's a more kind of obvious dynamic because one person is like really disciplined with the money and the other person is really having a lot of fun. And there's so much disconnection in that kind of relationship. The relationship may be beautiful in all the ways except when it comes time to talk about money. And then there's crying and shutting down and um it's just a taboo subject. You can't even say anything because it already is going to trigger the whole cascade that always happens.
Can a saver be married to a spender? Can it work?
Absolutely. Yes. And I think it's actually one of the best combinations, but you have to have the communication. And spenders and savers speak different languages. And so, what I help them to do, I help the spenders because I don't coach the savers, but I help the spenders to understand um, how their partner is hearing what they say and how they can really, number one, understand how to manage their money, but then also understand how to communicate in the conversation without getting hurt and shutting down. And a lot of like what you do, bring up the old stuff because they've had money stories since the beginning, right? They've had money stories since childhood, since allowances, since spending their parents' money kind of thing. So when the partner starts to ask about money or even say anything about money, it just automatically brings up feelings of being wrong, being guilty, having a lot of shame. Um, and so it really hinders communication in that area, and things just kind of like become an argument, or we don't talk about that in the house, which is really
Mm,
not a partnership, right?
it's really not a partnership. You know what's interesting? One, I was like, oh, you're like a fairy that comes and heals marriages. Because I wonder, like, can they actually work? But initially, I was like, oh, I have this thought that the saver in the relationship like manipulates with money. That's what like
Mm,
that's the word that came up to my mind. I was like, oh, I know
right.
that's not true, but my thought was
Oh
like the
man.
saver in that relationship manipulates with money.
You know
Like,
what? You won't even believe this when I tell you how beautiful the relationships are because the saver stabilizes the goals. So the
mm,
saver is the one who's like, let me make sure we're good, like long term good. Like we got properties and investments, and like we got a pile of money in the bank that you don't get the card to. Like we're good. And then here's a whole lot like I love you so much. What do you want? And then there's
mm,
this like giving and loving and all this kind of thing when the relationship is healthy, right? I'm not
mm,
talking about the ones that are like, if you start getting coached, he finna leave. But like the ones that are beautiful and they're healthy, that saver makes sure that the stockpile is stockpiling, and then there's something for the spender. I've seen it. It's beautiful. It's the reason why some women don't have to work, but they can still go out in the middle of the day with their yoga clothes on and have good lunches, and they can still go shopping, and they can still get their hair and their nails done because someone is making sure that we're good and that you're taken care of.
so that is so beautiful. I have a client who's thinking about saying yes if her boyfriend proposes. However, he's a saver, she's a spender, and her fear is that he will take care of her needs, but her wants will go unmet. And so I love how you highlight that in a safe, healthy relationship,
Mhm.
spenders and savers can coexist well, and the
Yeah.
spenders' wants don't have
Uh-huh.
to go away.
They don't have to go away. Now, the question I would have for that person is why does she feel that way? Because if she feels that way, it's probably a nugget of something they need to explore because it
Mhm.
doesn't have to do with money. It has to do like there's something else going on there.
Yes.
Because yeah, if it like if you we both know, right? If you have reservations beforehand, there's a reason you have those.
Yeah.
Like don't self betray. Don't ignore those reservations. We got to talk about that before the
Yes.
legal things are lined out.
We're
Yeah.
exploring all of those things.
For all that, yeah. And then the pendulum can swing too far because there are savers who they have their own issues, right? But they allow themselves to be taken advantage of by someone who is like financially not healthy or they're using money to medicate other emotional issues so they're overspending all the time. And if the saver is not making sure the stockpile is good, they'll go through everything and it's just a disaster. So it's kind of a fine line, which is why everybody needs help, right? Like if you identify with having unresolved issues that you're kind of like kicking the can down the road or there's something we can't talk about, um whether it is about life or it is about past trauma or it is about money, like get some help, talk to someone. Two good coaches right here, pick a coach. It's kind of like there's something there, and once you get that cleared, it's so beautiful. The conversations improve, the relationship improves. But when there's something between you that there's some static, it's so unnecessary when it can easily be resolved because someone has gone through this. You're not the first person ever to go through it, and there's help for it.
Yeah. You know what I love about doing the work? Because when breakdowns in relationship happens, it's usually either past trauma or money. So like lack of communication usually is a derivative of past trauma and not being told and things of that sort, or
Mhm.
money, never talking about it. And healing eliminates a lot of the reasons why um,
Oh,
relationships break down. And if you
yeah.
desire to be in a relationship,
Mhm.
it's advantageous to find those
Yeah.
healing avenues.
Yeah. Totally
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, because it can be really beautiful. And like one thing that I tell my spenders when they're having issues in relationships is like, just be curious, right?
Mm,
Like, don't try to defend yourself. Just be curious. If your partner is asking about the credit card bill and they're just going, wacky about it, and they're, really upset that you did this again, and we were trying to go to Disney World. Why did you spend all the, don't try to defend yourself in that moment where there's so much emotion between you, because you defending yourself is only going to bring up what your dad told you when you were 8, right? It's not going to be you and your partner. It's going to be all the criticism you felt from years back. So it's so fascinating when you're able to, and they do it too, right? Like over time, like the first argument, we cycle through, right? Like the first argument, it was still bad. The next one, like, oh, I caught myself. And then the next one is like, oh, in the moment, I was able to be calm, right? And then you see it in a whole different way. You see that person,
mhm.
revealing really what's bothering them instead of you like go blind and now you're defending yourself and you're the child again and the parent, you know, it's like you can see what your partner's actually saying to you, which is
Yeah.
for favors a lot of it's the instability, like the fear of the instability that can happen if all the money's gone, like, oh my gosh, I never want to be in that position again, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
they have different issues, but like you can't see each other and help each other if you're defending yourself or you jump to that trauma. So working through that, put some space and some thought between the initial emotion and the reaction and all that. It just makes everything so much easier in a marriage, which is the greatest personal development challenge apart from creating a business and raising
Man.
children.
Those three things, I said them verbatim yesterday. I was like, if you want to like really know what's inside of you, these three things will push it all out. Okay, I want
Yes.
to just say something about what you just said. If you tell someone, oh, why don't you be curious in an argument instead of, defend yourself? And then they go in with good mind. They realize they don't have any tools. It doesn't work. There is no incentive to try that again.
Yeah.
Like if you do it by yourself, you're like, that didn't work. That was ridiculous. It sounded good. It was packaged nice, but that didn't work. That doesn't work for me here. But I really do love how you showed like the evolution of what that looks like, right? Like
Yeah.
the first time might be a whole, that didn't work. Then the
Yeah.
second time there might be a small part that you used, but most of it still didn't work.
Yeah.
But having a place to go, dump all the stuff that happened,
Mhm.
reload and try it again, builds up
Mhm.
something before you know it. You've upgraded your identity. You're like, I don't even remember a time when I wasn't curious. I
Right?
don't remember a time where I didn't explore that and that I wasn't calm. I used to
Yeah.
not be calm.
Right? Listen, yes, it's fascinating. It really like I've thrown, let me tell you. Okay, the word I've thrown a vacuum cleaner across the room.
What does that
This
even
was
mean? What
and
does
like
that mean? Like
like
an
I
anthill?
literally know
Like a
the
like a
upright, yes, like the for real. I don't even recognize myself from 15 years ago. Like and it was about money. It was like you were spending too much money. We've got to do this and blah 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 and it's you. And they wanted to put me on a budget. And I
the
was
B word.
like, I work too hard. I work a lot. This was, obviously before the kids and before everything. And I was like, I work and I hated my job. And I was like, I work too hard. My only outlet is shopping, And so that was being taken away. I just remember it was one of the worst conversations and arguments and fights of my life. So I get it. I
Yeah.
totally get it. And I had to use that broken vacuum cleaner for like another year. I was just
No.
it was
Stop it.
broken. It was,
Stop.
yes. The only part that was broken was how you roll the cord up and it held,
Okay.
yeah. So I had to look at that broken. Well, you use it, but it was a reminder
A constant reminder.
of a terrible temper tantrum that I had as a fully grown adult. Right.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
get it. And so it's like that kind of stuff happens. And so clients are telling me what happened. And at the point when we're having a conversation, the emotion is over, right? All we do is kind of like Monday morning quarterback it. We get on that's why I had a whiteboard. We get on the board, we dissect the conversation. Okay, what did he say? What did you say? What happened? And then we see this is what happened. That act alone will help people go like, oh, I didn't even realize that when he said that he could have meant this. Because I just went, dad is standing over me and I spent all my allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Expanding the possibility that you might not be right
Mm-hmm.
or that you might be right and
Yeah.
like two things could be true. They could be right and you could be right. Like
Mhm.
just being able to see things from a different perspective because perspective is truly, truly, truly key.
Oh my
Like
god.
even as I'm seeing as I go out, like I didn't take offense to the tone. Well, I knew that I didn't want to be in an environment where that tone was used, but I didn't make it about me. Where before I'm like, maybe I did this. Well, I did say this one phrase, and maybe I didn't say that phrase appropriately. And
Mhm.
like now it's like no biggie. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I could say it and be calm. And being calm in difficult situations is so underrated.
Mhm.
And because usually we think we can only be calm in calm situations, but what we
Right.
both offer
Mhm.
is accessibility to be calm in every
Yes.
situation.
Yes. If you're not calm, you cannot think straight. You don't it's like you don't have control over yourself in the scenario because
Yeah,
emotions are just it's just running wild, and it helps to practice it over and over again in a safe place with someone who's unattached to either outcome or either person's, point of view. it helps to kind of go through those scenarios and realize the other person that you're in the relationship with has a whole set of things too, that you have your whole set of things you're bringing in. They have a whole set of things to bring in. But in the moment when they're spewing their stuff at you and you're spewing your stuff at them, that's not helpful. Right. And if it's your past trauma and their past trauma, those past versions of each of you didn't know each other.
Right.
Right? And so it's like if one person can be calm, it's almost like you're holding space for your partner to go through whatever emotional thing is happening while you're remaining calm and curious, but how you can support them, which is the highest form of love. You're
Yeah.
having this moment, you're upset with me, I spent all the money, or you're upset with me because I'm always late or I'm messy, and it's like I understand. I'm going to hear you while you express what it is. I'm not going to defend myself and tell you, well, you always do. It's like, no, I'm going to hear you because you have to get that off. And then maybe there's a reason why me being late or messy bothers you. Typically a reason, right? Because me being late, and I'm just saying me, in this case, but like, what if it doesn't bother me? So
Yeah.
there's a thought about being late that is different between the two of us. So it's probably
Yeah.
something. Or
Yeah.
if I'm late and I don't think it's a problem because I used to get rewarded for that. Like there's always a
Yeah.
reason.
Seriously.
Yeah. One way or the other. And so, but like spewing the emotion at each other doesn't uncover that.
No. When emotions run high, intellect runs low. And
Yes.
so, and you are now operating in the most, I don't want to use the word toxic, but just not helpful environments. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So the more access you can have to where you keep to keep your intellect, the better.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that comes from being calm. And it's not
Mhm.
muting your feelings. You still
Right.
can feel it. You can still
Yeah.
be upset
Hmm.
and be calm.
Yeah.
And that was something I didn't even know you can do. I didn't know you could be angry and
Hmm.
have like angry feelings and still be calm.
Yeah.
Like I thought angry meant you had to throw the vacuum cleaner,
You have to
right?
throw that dang on vacuum cleaner. I will not be on the budget. No.
So it
Yeah,
wasn't
no.
heavy. Like just the one question about the vacuum cleaner. It wasn't heavy. How could you
It,
throw a vacuum cleaner?
girl, crazy. Just
Okay,
crazy.
okay.
Just
Because
crazy.
I'm like, mine was heavy.
Just crazy. Like I will tell you, so we talked last week about kids. And I was telling you the way I think about kids and how I parent and things like that.
Mm,
Like this is a former vacuum cleaner thrower who now parents my kids like this because between the tossing, and this was with my first husband, I've been married twice. Between the first husband and the vacuum cleaner throwing incident, and now having 8-year-old kids, I did the work on myself.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
that's how, and even, there that demonstration is what I saw growing up.
yeah,
So that demonstration was just something I was just acting out, like this is the way it's supposed to be, right? And it's just like,
yeah.
no, we don't do that, you know?
Let me tell you what's so dope. So, like, when my son, who's now almost 16, he was like maybe 4, and I was doing as I saw some yelling and screaming at him. I don't know for doing something a 4-year-old does. And he stopped me. He was like, "Mommy, you're scaring me," right? So that was kind of jarring for me. Till what happened just recently, where my kid, another one, decorated the ceiling, and I said, I paused. I said, "I'm gonna go into my bedroom. I need to calm down before I talk." And now regulating myself so that I don't parent from anger,
Yeah.
that over the course of time was what healing gave me too. So like
Yes.
I love like being able to see those snapshots of time
Mhm.
for had I not what I would have continued to do but been
Yeah.
bigger, or I don't know if the vacuum cleaner would what else would have got. Because you're strong,
Yeah.
apparently. You're strong, so I don't know what else would have gone.
I
But I
know, and yeah, I was just gonna say, and the words, the words are very damaging,
yeah. Yeah.
the
I mean,
words
for
are
me,
very
when he told me
damaging.
I was scaring him because I wasn't hitting him, but I
Mhm.
probably, I don't know, I was screaming, I'm sure, just doing what I always saw growing
Right.
up. I thought
Yeah.
that was appropriate. And I remember when I stopped doing it, I
Mhm.
got ridiculed from my family saying that that was I'm
Yeah.
this is inappropriate to parent that way. So,
Right.
which is
Right.
the same with losing the people around you. You know, there's some
Mhm.
loss when you make changes and other people don't find value in those changes.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It is so true.
this conversation.
I know. It always kinda goes in a direction we don't expect, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
yeah.
really good.
So so I'm excited. I think that the work that I've done will my partner will be very my future partner will
Mhm.
be very happy with the fact
Mhm.
that I've been able to like hunker down and do the work. Because I just
Yeah,
think it makes me a more well-rounded person and
I
able to
agree.
handle the squeeze of I don't know the trifecta, the being in a relationship, being a parent, and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah,
Who's gonna do all of those three things?
yeah. It's a different kind of relationship when you love yourself a lot, and then you're able to love the other person. So the capacity of love that the other person gets from someone who's doing work on themselves is totally different.
Because they get
Yeah.
all the overflow. Like they get, and you have so much overflow gushing out everywhere that
Mhm.
it's just like raining over, but it doesn't take away anything. You're full already. It's such a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Overflow is my word of the week. It's so funny you said that. I was,
Really?
yeah, I was on a call with the Power Up crew. Shout out to Grace House. And she always makes us do this word of the week. And my word of the week is overflow. I put it on a little post-it, put it by the back door. And every time I walk past, I'm trying to remind myself of the abundance and the overflow. And so it's funny that you said that. So,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. I love that.
yeah. All right.
So,
Well, if anybody's listening, if anybody's listening, if anybody who's listening is interested in life coaching, who do you serve and how can they get in touch with you?
so I work with women primarily who are ready to take control of their life and no longer allow past experiences to drive them and get calm and freedom back. The best way to get in contact with me, anywhere you see Danielle Nicole Life Coach, whether that's Instagram, my website, TikTok, YouTube. On my website, you can schedule a consultation, and I do have a free guide. If you just wanted that right now and you're itching to get started, you can text purpose to 66866, and that'll be sent to your inbox. But yeah, anywhere you see Danielle Nicole Life Coach, I'll be there.
Awesome. So they can DM you on those different channels?
DM me, leave a comment, send a
Mhm.
smoke signal. I'll find you.
It's like,
Don't worry about
you're
it,
like,
honey.
I'll
I got
find
you.
you.
I'm here for you. I'm you. You're not alone, and I will get to you.
That's
Now,
awesome.
somebody's ready to feel calm with their money, and if they happen to be married to a saver or any situation like that, and they're looking for relief in their marriage
Yes.
or just feeling calm and confident with their money, how? How do they
Yes.
get that?
It's like if you have recently thrown a vacuum cleaner or any other thing in response to being told to save money. Yeah, I coach spenders only. So if you are a spender and you need some help with your money, so I'm all in all the places, but I don't have the capacity to if you DM me, you can DM Danielle. But if you DM me, I probably won't see it because I don't do here's how to find me. If you text spender to 44144, it's spender spender to 44144, you will get the 5 simple steps to heal your relationship with money that will put you on my email list and I will be able to find you from there. So that's where I
Perfect.
need you to be because otherwise I'm in a season where I don't have capacity to you can message me, but I may not see it.
That's
But
awesome. I love that. I love that. And I listen, if any of this found like you found value, like let us know. I would love to know
yeah.
what the biggest like aha moment from this, or if you've thrown a vacuum cleaner or anything
Yes.
similar, or like what your process has been like over time, if you're partnered, and if you what part of love do you love about it? Don't you like about it? Any comments? We love them all. We would love to hear from you. Or if you
Mhm.
know anyone who could find value in any of what we talked about, Share it.
Yeah, please share. Yes.
Yep. And subscribe.
And
We'll be back
subscribe.
next week.
Like and subscribe. Send us a comment. Tell us your story. And we
Oh,
will see you next week.
see you next week. Bye.
Bye.